Hey, all you literary legends and luminaries. I'm Julie and welcome to Booksmart. Today's book is a memoir titled T-Shirt Swim Club, Stories from Being Fat in a World of Thin People by Ian Karmel and Alisa Karmel. When I was in my early 40s, my doctor said I had disordered eating. I was borderline anorexic in high school and have had food issues ever since. I started writing about it and researching it a bit just recently, so I've been drawn to books that deal with any sort of food concerns. And the way T-Shirt Swim Club presented itself, it looked unique and funny and informative. Ian tells the story in memoir fashion for the first 180 pages or so, and then his sister writes from a psychological standpoint in the last 100 pages. For me, the structure just didn't quite work. Ian's story is divided up into 14 chapters, each beginning with an adjective for fat. And it's really kind of interesting how he connects all these together and his descriptions to go with them. Ian is very funny, but I'll talk about that in a minute. And I'm using the word fat because that's what Ian uses. So even if there is a more politically correct way to describe fat, I'm using what he has set forth in the book. At first, his story unfolds like a typical memoir. It's chronological, and Ian brings up some unique experiences like the representation of fat people in pop culture. He describes being bullied and how fat kids don't have many options in school. If you can't beat them, join them sort of thing, which then leads to all the fat jokes and making fun of yourself. Once he develops this part of his story, he wasn't funny in the hey, he's funny sense, although I know that doesn't make sense. It feels like a stereotype, one that Ian himself realizes. It's just kind of catch-22. People are cruel and mean, and it just makes me so mad. But anyway, Ian writes about this kid he knew in high school, and I have to read it to you because it's just the perfect paragraph. Well, actually, it's 2 paragraphs, but it is just beautiful, and it gives you context to how Ian writes. And it's chapter 4, high school. I went to high school with a kid who wore Jedi robes in his senior pictures. I believe without a doubt in my mind that this is the guy who had the best time. Not the jocks, not the popular kids, not even the kids in the theater department. I think it was the Jedi. I'm not certain what high school is like now, but I know what it was like in the first few years of the 2000s. And the student body's main reaction to this kid wearing Jedi robes was a bunch of words that we don't use anymore. He did it anyway. To this day, I find it amazing. Even then, I was blown away by how brave and honest it was. I wasn't shocked that he showed bravery in the face of a bunch of teenagers calling him names, though he did. I was shocked that he was brave enough to stick with it. He wasn't trying to be somebody. He wasn't. I mean, he was literally trying to be a Jedi, I guess, and I don't think he was actually a Jedi, but he wasn't trying to be someone who didn't want to be a Jedi. Everybody is so worried about being cool in high school, but this was the coolest person on the planet. On several planets, if his robes are to be believed. He was actual cool, not the kind of cool you pay for with hair gel and Abercrombie t-shirts. He didn't care what other kids thought, or at least he cared about how he felt about himself more. How did he do that? It honestly would have been less impressive to me if he was actually a Jedi. In high school, I contorted my personality to fit in. I love Star Wars too. I love Star Wars more than I love beer bongs, but I wasn't willing to let myself go through high school as the fat kid who loved Star Wars. This was a point in my life where I started caring more about what other people thought than about what I thought. I think a lot of kids do that in high school. It turns a lot of us into robots, but not the kid in the Jedi robes. He is not the droid you're looking for. If only more of us were Jedis. Once Ian starts writing about college, he kind of loses me there. The memoir structure sort of dissolves, and then he's skinny, although he doesn't develop too much about that, and then he gained the weight back and lost it again. Then it kind of turns into a social commentary or a self-help book. I did learn a lot from his chapter about big and tall stores and the overall shopping experience when you're fat. Then he has a chapter about how to lose weight and cheat days. He does bring up a good point as he is discussing his use of cheat days. And there is debate in the diet world whether you should have cheat days or not, which is part of what he's addressing. But he brings up this. I know there are healthier ways to approach eating. And he continues on. This is all making me think about theory versus reality, though. It seems to me like the conventional wisdom around fat, health, and weight loss is anything but conventional. It's always changing. In my lifetime alone, the nutritional reputation of eggs has ping-ponged back and forth faster than I can track. They're the culinary equivalent of skinny jeans. That's just a micro example. I don't remember hearing about intermittent fasting at the Weight Watcher appointments I attended when I was 10 years old. And now that shit is like Nalgene bottles in the 1990s. It's everywhere. I know in my core that cheat days aren't a long-term solution. I know that they continue to warp my relationship to food. I know they keep me in a state of mind that is informed by the toxic effects of diet culture. I know all of that is true in theory, but is it possible for diet culture to be bad for me in theory, but right for me in practice? And that is a large part of this problem. Foods that are good for you. Are they eggs, milk, fruit juices? He addresses these fads and diet cultures and the harm they do to us, predominantly that they prey on our vulnerabilities, and their main goal is to profit from those vulnerabilities. Two topics Ian brings up that I feel were unique, since other memoirs I've read don't overtly address them, is family and doctors. First, families. Yes, we all know that children who grow up in homes where mom, and it's usually mom, watches her weight, makes a point of talking about her own body insecurities and whatnot, may unfortunately pass these issues onto her children. However, Ian brings up another side of it, that his mother fiercely protected him from any fat shamers, yet didn't do anything about his weight. It is a tricky conundrum. Pointing out a child's weight and eating habits may only make problems worse, yet ignoring it isn't any better. We're so ready to blame parents if their children are fat, yet it is more complicated than that. Both Ian and his sister address this complex issue. The other topic is on going to the doctor. And this is surprisingly relatable to anyone who's been treated poorly by a doctor, and I'm guessing many of us have. How a fat person's doctor visit ends up being all about the weight, even though weight may have nothing to do with why the patient came in. When I go to the doctor, I know my file is red flagged because they think I'm a hypochondriac. So they minimize everything and don't listen to a word I say, which I think is the rule, not the exception. My mom experienced the same thing as a smoker when she developed lung cancer. She said they had pins and ribbons for every kind of cancer, but not lung cancer. She said something along the lines of people must think she deserved it since she smoked. And this is the part of the story that Ian develops really well. I just wish he would have developed it even more. Being fat shouldn't define a person, nor should it be the bulk of who they are, yet society, and doctors are sometimes the worst, make assumptions that society is all too ready to embrace. Ian's last chapter then deals with body positivity, which is a back and forth between Ian and his sister, and then his sister takes over the rest of the book. Alisa's part was too self-help for my taste. Because she too was fat, it would have been better to read her story, which we get glimpses of at times. But instead, she spends the bulk of it assessing Ian's story and then inserting the psychobabble that correlates with his topics, what he did right, wrong, or just whatever needed to work for him. It's repetitive at times and just got boring. She uses a ton of research, which you know I appreciated, but I don't know if she revealed any groundbreaking information. If you haven't been living under a rock, most of what she writes about is common sense. Yet the interesting part about all that information is how we are so obsessed with diet culture and fads and how we think there is a quick fix. Interestingly enough, neither Ian nor Alisa bring up the weight loss drugs, which is all the rage right now, despite the fact that we really don't know what the long-term effects of such drugs are. I think they each mention it in passing, and even sounds like he's taking or has taken weight loss drugs, but then just drops it. Since that is the current fad, it felt strange that it wasn't more addressed in the book. Just so you get a sense of Alisa's writing style, let me read you a paragraph which is regarding diets. And she says this. Let's see. The best diet for everyone does not exist. There is nothing new in the diet industry that we don't already know. Some diets have been around for a while, such as the low-carbohydrate diet that was introduced by William Banting in 1863. Since then, modern diet companies have emerged and offered new and empty promises to people as if they have found the answer. All they really did was make one or two modifications to an already existing and untailored diet to increase profit, not to improve people's health. I always remind my patients to listen to their instincts when a diet protocol guarantees results that seem unrealistic. Informative, yet dry, and it's something that I already knew, although maybe lots of readers don't. While Ian addresses his overeating and why And Alisa kind of writes about it. I think I was maybe hoping for a little bit more of the psychology behind all of our eating problems, but based on the subtitle, which focuses on society, I don't know why I expected that. So, is T-Shirt Swim Club worth the read, since that's what Booksmart is all about? Ian tells a compelling story, but I didn't care for the narrative style once it lost its memoir structure. Ian is funny and does make some profound and unique observations about being overweight, about dealing with a society that scoffs at such overweightness, and about life in general. Elisa's part is informative as well, although once again, I didn't care for the structure. Depending upon how much you know about diets and weight and food issues and whatnot, you might learn a lot from this book. Although Ian presents the book as though his readers have also been in the T-Shirt Swim Club, I don't think the book is just for those who have struggled with weight or food. Someone who hasn't had such issues should maybe read it more than anyone to understand a perspective not your own. Parents or significant others who don't struggle with their weight or food, but their children or partners do, will learn a lot from this book. It is very eye-opening, and T-Shirt Swim Club is definitely something they should read. Because here's the thing with books. They can teach us empathy, and we can learn perspectives outside of our own. And for that alone, T-Shirt Swim Club is definitely worth the read. Thanks for watching. As always, my goal at Booksmart is to get a little bit smarter, one book at a time.